Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Roger Paul, and today we are going to continue our study from last Sunday on the introduction and an introduction to the Urantia book. And this is the part 2 of the group series. And there may end up being a part 3. I'm not sure yet. So this is the continuation, though, of last Sunday. And for those who are just joining us in this thing, I need to tell everyone this afternoon I added 10 slides to the program. Reason being is I got a document that I had years and years and years ago from a lady named Carolyn Kendall about the plan for the Urantia book. And I want to be as fair as I possibly can on this introduction. So we have the two histories from the Urantia book. Part of this plan is in one of the histories. And of course, Larry Mullen's book on the Urantia history of the Urantia book. And we're trying to give you an overall of everything that you need to know for the beginning, from the beginning of the Urantia book, so that when you study from the beginning, you kind of have an idea where all this came from. Now, some people in the Urantia Foundation do not, not the foundation, the Urantia Brotherhood did not like the idea of doing an introduction to the Urantia book because they want the book to stand on its own. But this is just really a general background of all the things in the book that are in the book that relate to where the book came from. Now, the 10 slides I added from since last week will only be in the group session because I did not have these ready when I did the first one of just me talking. So you kind of get a little extra by listening to the group sessions instead of the first one when I'm talking. But I think this stuff's important. I think we want to be as fair as we possibly can from the history viewpoint for as many sources as we possibly can. Let me kill one of my, mute one of my things here. And
Can I say something?
yes, go ahead.
Rodney
Oh,
called and said he will probably be late. He texted.
yeah, he texted me. I told him to continue feeding his face, stuff in his face. So
He needs it. He.
yeah, I don't want him to get skinny or anything like me. So
Yeah, you had lost weight, haven't you?
about 60 pounds. So
Well, you can see and pick up on details, can't
yeah, I
you?
used to be a real fat round guy. Now I'm just a fat guy. So
In the recent past, you've lost weight, haven't you?
yeah, about 60 pounds in the last year or so. Yeah,
Okay, well, I'm at it since
yeah, since
I
my
don't know, your
injuries and stuff.
medical problems since the crash.
Yeah, since the crash. Yeah, it really started in the crash about a year ago. So, for y'all at home that don't know anything about that, I had to have some shoulder surgery and some other things. We had a really severe crash, my wife and I, and I just about died. That's a whole different ball game. But anyway, I'm still here. I'm still teaching. They couldn't shut me up that easy. They'd have to take my mouth. You know, I have some duct tape here just for that. Y'all think I'm joking? No, I'll save it for later. That's to shut me up later.
That's the easy. That's the weak stuff. You need the good stuff for you. Okay.
The gorilla stuff.
Yeah, the gorilla tape.
Okay, let's get started. Now, like I said, these I added 10 slides since the last time, and these are the plan for the Atlanta Revelation, Urantia Revelation, according to Carolyn Kendall. I believe Carolyn Kendall passed on. I'm not sure. But anyway, I wanted to read through this to be fair about where the information came from, because all the history is kind of sketchy. I also, of course, took information from, what's this, the Urantia book, right? And I took information. Um, I got several copies of the Urantia book I keep around, but from Larry Mullen's book, A History of the Urantia Papers, and some of this in these slides is in his information too. So you're going to get in a few of these slides that's on this thing. If you download it from the website, a few of these slides, you'll have a difference in opinion about the dates in a couple places. And I know that's there. I didn't try to correct any of it because no one can say 100% for sure. So we're doing the best we can on these dates. Okay, so let's start out with the development of the Urantia papers. And I believe I'll start out reading since we only have 3 people so far. So by Carolyn B. Kendall. And like I said, I got about 10 of her paragraphs or 10 slides on her information. So development of the Urantia papers. The revelators began planning the content of the Urantia papers in the Middle Ages. That's about 1300 or so. The purpose of this revelation was to prepare the planet for the next order of sonship. What are they talking about there? What's she talking about there? Because sooner or later, we will either get a magisterial son or a Trinity teacher son. So she's stating that the purpose of the revelation, other than revealing God to man, was to prepare us for the next order of sonship, whichever order that's going to be. It was instigated and approved by Michael himself, the Word-made book. Through neither a bestowal nor an emergency mission, the Urantia book is both a remedial, how many times have I said that? Remedial and upstepping enterprise. An array of resident and visiting celestial beings were conscripted for service to the revelatory undertaking. The celestial beings functioned as invisible behind-the-scenes directors to the contact commissioners, the dependable human facilitators who carried the project to completion. Now, how many times have y'all heard me say that the Urantia book is a remedial educating tool? And that's exactly what it is. It's to bring us up to the level that we're ready to move on to the mansion world. So this is like our remedial class that millions and millions and millions of people, when they get to the mansion worlds, are going to have to go through too. Okay, so you're getting a step up on that. So, and notice here it says this was approved by Michael himself. So Michael, Jesus of Nazareth, our creator son, instigated this to start out with. It wasn't the midwayers that instigated. They kept requesting it, but it was Michael who decided he wanted this done. So he put it before the Ancients of Days, and all the celestial authorities got it approved, and that's how we ended up getting this book. Yeah, Gary.
He says the purpose of the revelation is to prepare the planet for the next order of sonship. We're not going to have another Michael.
No, we're not going to have a Michael. That's a creator son. But we can have, and we probably will have, a magisterial son. And I know for a fact we'll eventually get a Trinity teacher son. Okay.
Now,
so we
define what those are.
Well, the magisterial son are the sons that come to the earth and magistrates the planet about every 1,000 years, and they awaken the sleeping the survivors who are asleep, and take them en masse to the Urantia book. These are people that did not reach their 3rd psychic circle. So they can't just awaken them on the mansion world. So they take them up in mass, millions at a time. And so they can put them in remedial classes to bring them up to snuff on spiritual values. Okay. So that's the magisterial son. The magisterial sons, each one of them at one time or another has to do at least 7 bestowals, just like the Michaels do, but they're not creators. Okay, but they still have to go through the process. So the magisterial sons, one time in their bestowals on a planet, has to come as a babe, just like the creator sons do, and live an entire life. And that's what they're talking about. This book is preparing us either for another magisterial son or a Trinity teacher son, one of the two. Now, the Trinity teacher sons do not do a bestowal like Jesus did. The Trinity teacher sons comes when we're ready to step into light and life, and they come as teachers to the planet. By that time, the planet has reached a certain spiritual level, and it's ready to be taught properly. Okay. And we think that's probably going to be eons to go yet. Yeah, Rodney.
Do the Trinity teacher sons come as spiritual beings?
They can come either way, Rodney. They can
Mhm.
come as a physical bestowal, or they could come as spiritual beings. By that time, if we have reached light and life, probably we'll have a expanded vision like we will on the mansion worlds, and we would be able to see them. You see what I'm saying?
If they came as a human, it would be like Mechaventia.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Then one other thing,
Yes,
I'm not sure at what point, but Michael did promise to return.
that's correct. He did. And he could come anytime. All right. I don't want to say anything that limits when he could come. But if you think about it, more than likely an event will have to happen before Michael returns to the planet. What do you think that event is? The total adjudication of the Lucifer rebellion.
Oh,
Right? Because it says that even in the New Testament, when Michael returns, it will be what? In power and glory, right? Every eye shall see, every ear shall hear. Okay. Can you think of a more appropriate event than the announcement of the adjudication of the Lucifer rebellion being done than that? I would think that would be a perfect time, right?
What about us going into light and life?
Well, that's exactly another time. That was my next point. When we reach light and life, and when we eventually reach light and life, what happens? The Urantia temple for our planet will come down to the planet. And don't you think that would be a fantastic time for Michael to return at the same time during this event?
And they probably can't return soon. The gas prices are too high.
That's right. Gassing up those guardian angels is really tough, right?
that could be the New Jerusalem that has been prophesied.
That's exactly right. Could be. So that's two good times that he could come back. Now, it's Michael's world. Yeah, he could come back today if he chose to, right? But since it's been prophesied so many years that he will come back in power and glory, I'm kind of thinking that it'll be some major event when he comes back, right? Because when that happens, think about it this way. When he comes back to the planet Earth or Urantia, that signalizes his sovereignty of the whole local universe, right? So what better time for him to reappear on the planet that tortured him, that rejected him in such a way? What better time for that to happen? Because if the circuits are all open back up and the broadcasts are on, if he comes back to this planet, you can bet yourself that every single planet and monitor and broadcast all over this local universe will be plastered all over with Michael returning to this planet, right?
Yeah, it will. It will.
It will.
Guaranteed.
Yeah, I could guarantee you that too. So we're going to have about 9 other slides from Carolyn Kendall so that we give you a fair overview of all the history we can possibly know about the book. Okay. And let me put it this way. There's a whole group of Urantians that don't believe we should even talk about where the Urantia book came from, because the book should stand in its own weight. The trouble is, you're talking about stupid human beings. We have to be kicked in the face before anybody pays attention to us, right? So the reason I'm doing this is so that you have a good understanding of what went into making this revelation possible, so that you're enticed a little bit to read it. It's what do you got to do to get a human being to come to their senses? God's not going to call you on your iPhone right? He's not going to call you and say, hey, I got you a revelation. It's called the Urantia book. I want you to read it, right? You think that's going to happen? No, it's not. So this is Roger Paul's call to your cell phone saying, there's a revelation out there. This is Jesus talking to you. This is God talking to you. And he wants you to read this book. Put all your stuff aside. I know the Bible says you shouldn't add to it and all this stuff. Put all that stuff aside and take the time to read this book at least once, because it's a message from God himself. It's a message from Jesus himself. It's a message from Michael, Jesus of Nazareth himself to you personally. That's why you need to read this book. Okay. And I can't say this enough. Now, I'm going to say this and I'm going to stick to this. When we get done with these two, if it's one or two, however many times it takes us to finish this, Roger Paul has finished talking about it. Okay. This is it. So if you want to hear from me on this, this is these presentations. I'm not going to be around long enough to do this again. I can tell you. Okay. So this is the final word from me. And I want the opportunity to share this with you. And I hope you take the time to listen to it. And that's all I'm saying on it. Okay. Final word. Is it?
Hallelujah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. Amen. Okay.
Hallelujah.
Let's go on to the next one here. We get on the right computer here so I can advance the right slide. Here we go. Okay. And I'm going to tell you when I get to these slides from Carolyn Kendall, so you know what is from the book and what's not. This is from the book itself. You notice up in the corner up here that we have it came from paper 92, 4th section, 3rd paragraph, or paper 107.3 on the original book. Okay.
The new book.
Huh? The new book. No, the original book.
The original.
Yeah. The
Okay.
1955 version.
Oh,
Okay. All right. And as far as I know, the 1955, I got a 1973 version, and I have never taken the time to count the paragraphs to see if it's exactly the same. But I believe it was, because I taught out of my 73 book for years. It seemed to match up. Okay. So here we go. I think we read this last time, but I want to go back through it again because it's the setup for the stuff that's coming up here. So, sweetie, could you read that first paragraph for me?
Evolutionary religion is sentimental, not logical. It is man's reaction to belief in a hypothetical ghost spirit world. The human belief reflects, excited by the realization and fear of the unknown. Revelatory religion is propounded by the real spiritual world. It is the response of the super-intellectual cosmos to the mortal hunger to believe in and depend upon the universal deities. Evolutionary religion pictures the circuitous gropings of humanity in quest of truth. Revelatory religion is that very truth. There have been many events of religious revelation, but only 5 of epical significance. These were as follows.
Okay, so I don't know if you were with us last time.
you're muted.
Here we go. Okay, I don't know if you remember me talking about this last time, but the last time I talked about how there's 3 levels of reality, right? The material level of reality, the Urantia level of reality, and the spirit level of reality. And there's multiple levels on each one of these, except the finite. It's always finite. Okay, so what they're talking about here is we have this belief in this spirit ghost world that really doesn't exist. Okay, but what we do have as a real spirit world, and this revolutionary religion is revelatory religion is based on truth. Okay, so this revelation to us is based on truth, and there have been only 5 of these revelations that are of epical significance. That doesn't mean that individuals haven't received revelations from God or from the Spirit or the Holy Spirit and all this. That's happened down through time many, many times. And you got a whole book of just that. You know what that is?
The Bible.
The Bible. That's right. You got a whole book of people that believes that they were revealed certain things. They wrote books on it. They passed it down from generation to generation and generation. Even the life of Jesus was a passed down information of what people could remember about him 67 years after he died. Okay. So your Bible that you keep calling just truth is really just revealed religion. In other words, things that's been revealed to them and they've tried to relate it to you. Now, that's not what the Urantia book is. Okay. Get clear on that. If you're reading the Urantia book, you're not reading the Bible. The Bible was written by men. Some of them inspired, some of them not so inspired. Okay. So when you read that God sent some such and such out to kill every man, woman, and child, we know that's not the nature of God.
No.
We already know that. And it says that in the Urantia book. It's not going to go send you down the wrong direction. But there were 5 epical revelations, and this is what these 5 revelations were. You switch this one. Okay. The 5 epical revelations. I'll read this because you don't get off that easy, Gary. Okay.
Oh, well.
Okay. The 5 epical revelations, because we're going to go into each one of these. The first one was the Dalmatia teachings. The Dalmatia teachings is done by Calagasta and the Calagasta 100. They carried this on for 300,000 years. And it stopped when 200,000 years ago, Lucifer and Satan and Calagasta, our planetary prince, rebelled. So it went on for 300,000 years. Now, after that, the 40 of the Calagasta 100, 40 of them that stayed loyal, tried to keep going on, Van being one of those that kept trying to teach the truth. Okay, the second revelation of God to man was the Edenic teaching, Adam and Eve, and that was 37,800 years ago. Okay, that's the second one. The third one was Maccadentia Melchizedek of Salem. That was 1980 years before Christ came to the planet himself. And then the fourth one was Jesus of Nazareth, was Michael, our creator son. Okay, so he was the 4th epical revelation of God to man. He tried to introduce God the Father to us. And so the 5th epical revelation is what? The Urantia papers. They trying to give us a remedial class to bring us up to snuff on spiritual values and things like that. So that's the 5 epical revelations. And next we are going to actually talk a little bit about each one for just a minute. Okay. Here's the first one. Gary, you get the first one.
You set me up. That's okay. 1, the Dalmatian teachings. The true concept of the first source and center was first promulgated on Urantia by the 100 corporal members of the Prince Calagaska's staff. This expanding revelation of deity went on for more than 300,000 years until it was suddenly terminated by the planetary secession and the disruption of the teaching regime. Except for the work of Van, the influence of the Dalmatian revelation was practically lost to the world. Even the Nodites had forgotten this truth by the time of Adam's arrival. Of all who received the teaching of the 100, the red man held them highest, but the idea of the Great Spirit was but a hazy concept in American religion when contact with Christianity greatly clarified and strengthened it.
Okay, so the Indians held on to the concept of the Great Spirit or God the Father longest than any other men during that period of time, and they held on to it all the way down up until their contact with Christianity many years later. Okay, so the Dalmatian teachings was the first revelation of God to man. All right, the second one, Rodney, would you take the second one, please?
Yes, two. The Edenic teachings. Adam and Eve again portrayed the concept of the father of all to the evolutionary peoples. The disruption of the first Eden halted the course of the Adamic revelation before it had ever fully started. But the aborted teachings of Adam were carried on by the Sethite priest, and some of these truths have never been entirely lost to the world. The entire trend of Levantine religious evolution was modified by the teachings of the Sethites. But by 2500 BC, mankind had largely lost sight of the revelation sponsored in the days of Eden.
Okay, so to understand this, you must understand that Seth was a descendant of Adam and Eve. Okay, so he was the religious branch during the Garden of Eden, and that's where the Sethite priests came in. They set up a priesthood, so that's where the Sethite priests came from, and they taught the world down to about 2500 BC. Okay, so all the religions that's out there was influenced in one way or another by the Sethite priests that went out as evangelists and ministers. Okay, so
Roger,
yeah,
I have a feeling that if I can pronounce this right, Gobekli Tepe,
Gobekli Tepe. Yeah, yes.
that it had something to do with the Sethites.
Could be the Sethites, it could be Van himself. You know, I've thought that too. You know, because if you think about it, if you think about the columns and things like that, what they have on them? Animals of that day, right?
Right.
And part of what Adam or what Van and Abaddon was teaching the barbarians is how to raise animals, raise crops, things like that. So it would make sense that they would do these columns with the normal animals of the day and try to train the Bedouins how to start being animal husbandry experts and how to grow crops and things like that, because by controlling the animals instead of just going out and killing and eating them, if they took care of their own animals, they could have food during times of starvation and things like that. So that's what part of this was. So I agree with you. It could be Van, and it could be it could have been the Sethite priests going out, because obviously there was some sort of priesthood or religious things going on at that site. You see what I'm
Correct.
saying? You know, but plus the fact that everything is in these circles. You know,
Right.
what do you always come back to? The concentric circles, right? Over and over and over again. Okay. Let's see here, dear.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, go right ahead.
There was two Adam and Eve, two Garden of Edens.
Yes.
Why
There
didn't
weren't
he the
two
first
Adam and
one?
Eves. There weren't two Adam and Eves, though, Gary.
No, as I meant, I misspoke.
Yeah.
There was
Yeah.
two Garden of Edens.
Right.
Why?
Very simply, it worked this way. The first garden, when Adam and Eve started out, right after they defaulted, two things happened, right? Eve defaulted first, and then Adam. Both of them, when they defaulted with whom? The local tribes. Cain was one of the heads of the local tribes that was outside the garden. Okay. When Adam chose a mate outside the garden, and they both had children from that, right? Remember Cain and Abel? Cain was the descendant of Cano, which is the mistake that Eve made. And then I can't remember off the top of my head, I'm getting old, but the one that Adam made it up with, they had a daughter, and she was outside the camp. So all the outside tribes got super upset when they mated with the local tribes. Okay. Because that was a no-no. I mean, they wouldn't let their children do that. They wouldn't let anybody do that. So the people that are the beings that lived inside the garden were not allowed to mix with the people outside the garden. Okay. And they did that on purpose because they were supposed to have 1 million children or 500,000 children, and then they were going to mix with the tribes. Well, when they broke the rules, it upset all the tribes. So what happens? The tribes, the barbarians, just swarmed on the first garden and destroyed it. Okay, that's how the first garden got destroyed. Shortly after that, the first garden sank into the local sea. Okay, so they went out and established a second garden. Okay, after this happened. Now, if Adam and Eve had not defaulted, then the barbarians would have never invaded the first garden. In the first garden, who knows whether it would have still been there or not, but apparently it was still have sunk into the sea. Now, you want to hear an interesting speculation?
Yeah.
The description of the first garden
Matches Atlanta.
Matches Atlantis. That's right. Isn't that an interesting thing? Right? And it sank into the sea. All right. So was that the first garden? Maybe it was the second garden. We're not sure. Right. But we know that it sank into the sea. So they moved the garden somewhere between the Euphrates, what was in the Euphrates Valley somewhere. All right. Now we know a pretty good idea where Dalmatia, where the Caligastat 100 was, and that was down around Ur. Okay. And it also sank into the sea. Right off the coast.
Persian Gulf.
Huh? Persian Gulf.
Persian Gulf.
Persian Gulf. That's right. Okay. So if you don't stick to God's plan,
you're drowned.
Looking for trouble, right? They knew there was faults out there in that area, right? They knew it ahead of time, you know? So it makes you wonder, doesn't it? You know, maybe that's where these legends of the flood really started from. And when Noah came along, it just expanded into it went to the whole world. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of things we don't know for sure. All right. Sweetie, would you take the next one? Let me mute my thing again here.
3. Melchizedek of Salem. This emergency son of Nebadon inaugurated the third revelation of truth on Urantia. The cardinal precepts of his teachings were trust and faith. He taught trust in the omnipotent benevolence of God and proclaimed that faith was the act by which men earn God's favor. His teachings gradually commingled with the beliefs and practices of various evolutionary religions, and finally developed into those theologic systems present on Urantia at the opening of the first millennium after Christ.
So really, Melchizedek was the start of most of the religions we know of today, right? He taught Abram. Abram's one son went one way and the other son went another. They both claimed authority. So out of one came the Jews, eventually the Christian, out of the other came the Muslims, right? And both groups are still around today, but they all came from the first source, which was Melchizedek of Salem. And his message was what? God the Father. Okay. He was the third, this is the third revelation of God to man.
That there was only one supreme deity.
That there was only one supreme deity, right? Then came this guy named Jesus, right? And what did he teach us? That God is our Father, right? The love of God. Okay. For Jesus of Nazareth, Christ Michael presented for the fourth time to Urantia the concept of God as the universal Father. And this teaching was generally persisted ever since. The essence of his teaching was love and service, the loving worship which a creator son voluntarily gives
Preacher's son.
preacher son. I stopped myself there. Just
Okay.
voluntarily gives in recognition of and response to the loving ministry of God, his Father, the free will service which such creature sons bestow upon their brethren in the joyous realization that in this service they are likewise serving God the Father. So when you serve one another, you are serving God the Father. And Jesus taught the love of God, right? Now remember, Jesus, when Jesus was Jesus of Nazareth, this is the seventh bestowal. The seventh time he bestowed himself as a being, as one of his creatures. So this, when this was done, what did he earn? The sovereignty of his own universe, right? And I'm not going to belabor that point because we know about that story, and we're going to know even more as we read the Urantia papers, The Life of Christ. Okay, 5, the Urantia papers. Gary, would you take this one, please?
5, the Urantia papers. The papers, of which this is one, constitute the most recent presentation of truth to the mortals of Urantia. These papers differ from all previous revelations, for they are not the work of a single universe personality, but a composite presentation by many beings. But no revelation short of the attainment of the universal Father can ever be complete. All other celestial administrations are no more than partial, transit, and practically adapted to local conditions in time and space. While such admissions as this may possibly detract from the immediate force and authority of all revelations, the time has arrived on Urantia when it is advisable to make such frank statements, even at the risk of weakening the future's influence and authority of this, the most recent of the revelations of truth to the mortal races of Urantia.
Okay, so what does it not say here? It doesn't say this is a revelation of Scripture, does it? It doesn't
Correct.
say that this book is Scripture. It doesn't say this book is an adjunct to the Bible, does it? It doesn't say that this should be tacked on to the end of the New Testament, does it?
Correct.
No. What it does say is this: it's the most recent presentation of truth to the mortals of Urantia, and we are Urantia, right?
And it's
Okay.
not complete. And it's not complete.
It's not complete. So if you go around telling your friends that this revelation is the last word, you're lying to them. Okay? Because revelation will continue. It will continue to individuals. It will continue like this book, and another 1,000 years, it's going to need to be updated because we're going to be more spiritually intelligent in 1,000 years, hopefully, unless we go down the wrong pathway, right? So that's what this is about. It's saying here that the Universal Father approved of the fact that there be given a revelation of truth to the people of Urantia. Okay? And who started it? We know from the first thing we read when we started tonight, Jesus started it. Michael started it. He's the one that said, I want my children to know the truth. Okay? So when you hand this to somebody and they tell you, I'm not going to read this, this is not of the Bible. My response is, you don't want to know what your creator son wants you to know? You don't want to know what Jesus wants you to know? That's my response. You know, I don't argue with people. You can't fix what?
Stupid.
That's right. You can enlighten someone if they don't know, but you can't fix stupid, right? Okay. One of my favorite sayings. Y'all know that by now.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's move on to the midwayers. Might get the right mouse here. Let's see. Did we get rearranged? Rodney, would you take this one, please?
Yes. The United Midwayers of Urantia are organized for service with the planetary seraphim in accordance with innate endowments and acquired skills in the following groups. 1. Midway Messengers. This group bear names. They are a small corps and are of great assistance on an evolutionary world in the service of quick and reliable personal communication.
Hold it right there for a second, Rodney.
Okay.
Would you think that it would be the Midway messengers that would be involved in bringing this word to us?
It sure sounds like it.
Sure sound like it, doesn't it? Okay, go on.
Yes. 2. Planetary Sentinels. Midwayers are the guardians, the sentinels of the worlds of space. They perform the important duties of observers for all the numerous phenomena and types of communication which are of import to the supernatural beings of the realm. They patrol the invisible spirit realm of the planet.
Hold it right there, Rodney. So these are the midwayers that make sure anybody coming or going from this planet are authorized to do so. Okay. If rebellion cropped up on this planet from another planet, who would be there to see it? The planetary sentinels, the midwayers, right? And who would they call in if that was the case?
Melchizedek.
The archangels. The archangels are the chief muscle, right?
Troopers.
The super angels. Okay. So that's who they would call in to take care of it. Now they also know, let me add one thing to this because we need to know this day of time. Who else would they know come and go? Any being outside authority of our planet, and that includes UFOs. Okay. So there aren't student visitors. There aren't any UFOs coming to this planet that the midwayer sentinels don't know who they are, where they come from, and either allow them in or keep them from landing. You see that? It's important to know that. Wouldn't you say? So they are the midwayers that kind of are the military of the UFO stuff, right?
Maybe
So they're the guardians of the planet.
They're the guardians of the planet. You know that movie Guardians of the Universe? They're really the guardians of the universe, right?
Perhaps they have something to protect us from atomic oblivion.
They may too. Okay, now the next one is very, very important for this revelation. Okay, go ahead and read that one.
3. Contact personalities. In the contacts made with the mortal beings of the material worlds, such as with the subject through whom these communications were transmitted, the midway creatures are always employed. They are an essential factor in such liaisons of the spiritual and the material levels.
Now, why would that be? Because if you think about it, they can see the spirit beings and they can see the material beings. So who do you think is the liaison from the spiritual world to the material world?
Midwayers.
Midway.
That's so is the name.
Yeah. Midway between, right? Okay, and let's go ahead and get the last one, Rodney.
Yes, number 4, progress helpers. These are the more spiritual of the midway creatures, and they are distributed as assistants to the various orders of seraphim who function in special groups on the planet.
This would be the primary midwayers, right? Because they're higher up than the secondary midwayers. So they would be the ones doing the communication with all angelic core. Okay, not the secondary. They would pass it on to the primary midwayers, and then they would communicate with the seraphim and that sort of thing. So when we read that, we will read in these slides that the seraphim of the planet are involved in revealing this book to us. That's what they're talking about. It's the primary midwayers talking to the seraphim. All right, so it goes from the seraphim to the primary to the secondary midwayers, and then down through a human being, and that human being was the contact personality, okay, which we will never know the name of. Yeah, Gary.
Should we mention now that for people who are just beginning to see this, that seraphim are really angels? I mean, that's another
They are
form.
angels. Yeah, we
Yeah.
have two of them assigned to us. When we reach the third psychic circle, we'll have two seraphim and a cherubim and a cenobim assigned to us. And these are the angels that record every single thing that happens to you. So let's take an example of this too. That's good point, Gary. If the secondary midwayer had not recorded everything that happened to Jesus, let's just say they did, which we know they did. If that secondary midwayer missed something, who would he go to clarify his notes for writing out the life of Jesus? He'd go to the seraphim, right? Yeah, the seraphim assigned to Jesus. They record everything in triplicate. Okay, both seraphim and a guardian angel. I mean, a archangel, right? The archangel verifies that everything is correct. So they have at least 3 records. Okay. So when they say, let me give you an example of that. Let's take number 1 here. The midway messengers. This group bears the name of small core and are a great assistance. How do we know that? Because a seraphim can verify that. Not once, but twice, but 3 times. Okay? Because everything is recorded. So when they tell you, when you start to read this book, this is a book of truth, should you take that to the bank?
Yeah.
I would think so, wouldn't you? Huh? You got multiple celestial beings telling you they're trying to help you. How much are you going to stick your fingers in your ears and go, nah, 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 you know? Wake up. Okay. Let's go on. Who's up there? You are up? Okay. Let me hit the mute button again before we start here.
Midwayers vary greatly in their abilities to make contact with the seraphim above and with their human cousins below. It is exceedingly difficult, for instance, for the primary midwayers to make direct contact with material agencies. They are considerably nearer the angelic type of being and are therefore usually assigned to working with and ministering to the spiritual forces resident on the planet. They act as companions and guides for celestial visitors and student sojourners, whereas the secondary creatures are almost exclusively attached to the ministry of the material beings of the realm.
Okay, so you see the pecking order here? We got
Mhm.
seraphim, we got primary midwayers, we got secondary midwayers, and then you got humans. You see that? And that's how it's communicated down, and that's how it's communicated up. Has to go through those agencies. No shortcuts. Okay. To the next one here. I'll take the next one since we're short on people today. The 1,111 loyal secondary midwayers are engaged in important missions on Earth as compared to their primary associates. They are decidedly material. They exist just outside the range of mortal vision and possess sufficient latitude of adaptation to make at-will physical contact with what humans call material things. These unique creatures have certain definite powers over the things of time and space, not accepting the beasts of the realms. Now, when they're talking about the 1,111 loyal midwayers, remember there were over 2,000 of them start out with, but the others rebelled and have been removed from the planet now. Okay, so this is the secondary midwayers. Yeah, Gary.
Then those things that you see on cable TV, YouTube, whatever, where chairs move possibly, it'd be a secondary midwear that would have control to do that because
Yeah, could very well be.
because
Yeah.
my understanding is Caligasca is neutered, except for unless you intentionally invite him into your heart.
That's right.
So
He has no power.
So
Yeah.
the evil beings are non-existent. It's just the midwayers having fun.
Yeah, right. Now, let me make a point here. Since Pentecost, all those rebellious midwayers, both primary and secondary, have been taken away, right? So if you say the devil made me do it, you're lying to yourself, right? There is no devil to make you do it anymore. The only evil in your life is that evil which comes from your own insides. Okay. When you choose not to do the will of God, that's when you encounter evil. Okay. It's not an influence on you. These devils can't come into you like they could back 2,000 years ago. Okay. Even Caligastia himself cannot invade you unless you invited him in. And we don't know that Caligastia is even alive on this planet because we got enough evil from the leaders of some of these nations that we don't need another Caligastia. We got plenty of evil human beings running around on this planet that are selfish and want things their way, and it's not for the good of the world, right? We're going to find out later today, if we get to it, that an example of that is communism. And I'm going to show you an example of that. Very good one today. Okay, so let's move on. Gary, would you take the next one, please?
Many of the more literal phenomena ascribed to angels have been performed by the secondary midwear creatures. When the early teachers of the gospel of Jesus were thrown into the prison by the ignorant religious leaders of that day, an actual quote, angel of the Lord, unquote, by night opened the prison doors and brought them forth. But in the case of Peter's deliverance after the killing of James by Herod's order, it was the secondary midwaiter who performed the work ascribed to an angel.
So it was the actual midwear that released Peter from prison after they killed his brother James. Herod killed his brother James. And we know that James was the head of the apostles. He was the administrator of the apostles. Peter was the head preacher. So when James was killed, guess who had to take over? Peter. Okay. And that's how he ended up becoming the head of the church after Jesus. He remembered the statement that Jesus made him the rock, right? The rock of the church, which is the fellowship of believers. Okay. Rodney, would you take the next one, please?
Yes. Their chief work today is that of unperceived personal liaison associates of those men and women who constitute the planetary reserve corps of destiny. It was the work of this secondary group, ably seconded by certain of the primary corps, that brought about the coordination of personalities and circumstances on Urantia, which finally induced the planetary celestial supervisors to initiate those petitions that resulted in the granting of the mandates, making possible the series of revelations of which this presentation is a part. But it should be made clear that the midway creatures are not involved in the sordid sorted performances taking place under the general designation of, quote, spiritualism. The Midwayers are present on Urantia, all of whom are of honorable standing, are not connected with the phenomena of so-called, quote, mediumship. And they do not ordinarily permit humans to witness their sometimes necessary physical activities or other contacts with the material world, as they are perceived by human senses.
So they have nothing to do with spiritualism. They have nothing to do with mediumship. Okay. You can't communicate with dead people that's gone on. It's not allowed. That's the only way I know how to say that. It's not allowed. Period. Right. All right. They do work with the reserve core of destinies, the adjusters of the reserve core of destiny, to prepare individuals unconsciously in their sleep so that they can do specific jobs that have to be done. The other thing I want to bring out in this is this. They do not ordinarily permit humans to witness their sometimes necessary physical activities. This is true even in revealing the Urantia book. None of the contact commission ever seen any midwayer move any physical object. They didn't see him write anything out. Nothing like that happened during the revealing of this book. Okay, so they didn't sit there and watch the pencil move on its own. Okay, just to tell y'all. Just want to let you know. So that's not the way this book came to be. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Diane, I believe you're up again.
The adjuster of the human being through whom the communication is being made enjoys such a wide scope of activity, chiefly because of this human's almost complete indifference to any outward manifestations of the adjuster's inner presence. It is indeed fortunate that he remains consciously quite unconcerned about the entire procedure. He holds one of the highly experienced adjusters of his day and generation, and yet his passive reaction to and inactive concern towards the phenomena associated with the presence in his mind of this versatile adjuster is pronounced by the guardian of destiny to be a rare and fortuitous reaction. And all this constitutes a favorable coordination
Then
of
they don't get
influences,
anything. Listen, Caleb.
favorable both to the adjuster in the higher sphere of action and to the human partner from the standpoints of health, efficiency, and tranquility.
Okay.
You're still muted, Roger.
Gary, if you can hear me, I had to mute you because we were getting your conversation. I'll hit ask to unmute, see if I can get him to unmute for us here. Huh?
Do you want me to read it again?
No, you're fine. Okay. When he pops his video back on, I'll ask him to unmute. All right. So it's telling us here that because this human being had such an advanced, Gary, he did it. He got it.
I'm sorry. I apologize. I had an emergency call of my granddaughter.
That's fine, Gary. I just muted you because we were getting half of the conversation in here, and I didn't, it wasn't any of our business. So
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. So this adjuster of this individual that they used for the communications for this book, the reason they could use this adjuster, because this adjuster had a lot of experience, probably with multiple people, okay, over eons and eons of time. So they were able to use this adjuster's experience in part of communicating with the contact commission of what they needed to teach them, what they needed to know to prepare for the revealing of the book. We think the book just started coming. That's not what happened. I've talked about this before, that the book took 18 years of training by the contact commission before it was ready to even start to get the information for the book. Right. So they had to mentally prepare all these people, the 6 people in the contact commission, started out 4, ended up 6, for the revealing of the book to them, because psychically they would have been devastated over a period of time if they had not done that. Okay, so human being was not meant to do this. All right. This is from the Carolyn Kendall paper again. Rodney, thank you for sending me that. I haven't read that in years, and I'm glad you pointed it out to me, because it's got so much information about this subject of where the book came from, and I want to give it as fair coverage as we can, because like I said, I'm not going to be covering this again. So
I'll let Bill know.
Yeah, tell him we appreciate it. All right. I think I'll read this one myself, since I would be after you, dear. The functioning of the contact commissioners. The individuals charged with the responsibility of gathering up the questions and comparing the typewritten text with the original handwritten manuscript came to be known as the contact commissioners. Only these contact commissioners attended contacts and received written communications through the contact personality, the adjuster, right? The commissioners were the custodians of the Urantia manuscript, keeping the carbon copy of the typewritten manuscript in a fireproof vault. They were also charged with full responsibility for supervising all the details connected with the publication of the book, securing the international copyrights, etc. The papers were published just as we received them. The contact commissioners had no editorial authority. Our job was limited to spelling, capitalization, and punctuation. And this continues on the next one. Now, what I want to make clear about this is this. They got the information, and the contact personalities, all 6 of them, were guaranteed that the information that they were revealing or teaching the forum with was word for word what was done and said, and they did not change, add, or edit anything when it was coming through. Okay. The reason I want to make such a point of this is this. We had a lady 2 or 3 years ago that came out with this book trying to convince everybody this was all the writing of William Sadler. You know what I say about that? Poppycock. That's what I say. It was not the writing of William Sadler. He had at least 29 other books that I know of out there. One of them, Minds at Mischief. He was a doctor. He's a psychiatrist. He has a specific writing style, and this is not his writing style. Okay. So he did not write the book, if that's what people try to convince you is the point.
Roger,
yeah.
From years and years and years of study, I know this personally, that it would be absolutely impossible for any human being or group of humans on Earth to even conceive of any of this information.
No.
It would be impossible.
It couldn't happen, could it, Rodney? Just could not happen.
I agree 100%. Even the woman that wrote Harry Potter series with her fantastic imagination could not even conceive. It would take it'd take many of her with that style and capacity of imagination to even approach this. I mean, this is not of this world.
No, it's not. It's really funny. In 1973, when I first started reading this book, I looked up some articles on it. And one of the articles I remember, the very first sentence was, when you read this, you think it's the tomfoolery, that's what they call it, of an advanced class of theological students that all got together and put all their possible ideas into one book, you know. And even that wouldn't work, right? And the other thing I want to say is this: I've been reading it since 1973. What's 50 some years? Read it once every year for all those years at least. And I know the book pretty good, but I know the human mind pretty good too. And I can tell you, I could not write this, but I couldn't even write 1/10 of this book from memory if I had to. Not even a 10, you know? So, you know, unless you had a photographic memory that lasted forever, there's just no possible way you could do it, right? Okay, let's see. Rodney, can you read that all right?
I think so.
Why don't you take that one?
Dear, pardon me.
Go ahead and take this one.
During these early years, the contact commissioners received many communications and directives in writing. Between 1939 and 1955, 8 written communications were given to the 70 by the Seraphim of Progress attached to the superhuman planetary government of Urantia. The last new written communication was read to the Forum in 1952. Almost all of these messages had a notation at the bottom of the last page, which read, "To be destroyed by fire not later than the appearance of the Urantia papers in print." It was the design of our unseen friends to prevent the appearance of the Urantia Apocrypha.
Apocrypha, that's right. Just like there's a apocrypha for the Bible, right? All
Okay.
the books of the Bible that didn't make it into the Bible in 390.
Oh, I understand.
Right.
Subsequent to the publication of the Urantia book, Dr. Sadler and Christie were permitted to retain several of the communications after publication, but she was required to destroy them before her death. In 1982, during her final illness, Christie directed their destruction by 2 trusted associates. The presence of the contact personality was not required for verbal contacts between the Revelatory Commission or the successor Midway Commission and contact commissioners. The verbal contacts, which had begun 20 years before the papers appeared, continued into the early 1980s. And, the Midwayers were very real to us. We frequently talked with them during our very contacts. We quite fully understood that the Secretary Midwayers supervised the contacts. Once, when asked why words unique to the Urantia book were pronounced in a certain way, Dr. Sadler answered, "We heard some of them spoken. Verbal contacts have not been reestablished since the demise of the last contact commissioner."
Okay, so there has been no contact with any human being from the Midwayers about the paper since the last communication with Dr. Sadler. 0. Okay, so if you have these people out there that say they're getting channeled messages from the Midwayers, you know what I would say?
Poppycock.
Liars. Because there's not been any. Okay, so all these people that are channeling this spirit and that spirit and all this stuff, and they're conscious while this is happening. This is not what we're talking about, is it? Not at all. Okay, so it is important for us to know, they said the book was for the next generation, and that is literally the case now. Okay, all the contact commissioners are what? Dead and gone. Okay, the sleeping subject is dead and gone. So almost most of the forum and the 70 that was coming to these meetings are all dying off or gone, right? So within 100 years, everybody associated with this book will be gone for sure. And that's what they wanted. They wanted it to stand on its own information within the book. Okay, does that make sense? It really does. If you think about it, that's the only way it could be. All right. The other thing I want to mention about this little paragraph thing here is this. People often wonder how we got pronunciations of some of the book, like Urantia. Why is it not pronounced Urantia, right? It's because the contact commissioners heard the midwayers pronounce it Urantia, and they informed them that all of these things that ended in TIA were pronounced cha. Okay, so that's how we got the Urantia book. Okay, makes sense. And a lot of the things there's a summary of pronunciations on one of the websites. That's where all this came from, because they heard the midwayers pronounce it certain ways. Okay. Kind of interesting, isn't it? You see why I wanted to include some of this in our presentation. Not going very fast. Okay, Diane, I think you're up again, dear.
The delay in publishing the Urantia book had not World War II occurred, the book might have been published in 1940 or 1941. It was assumed that when the war concluded, permission would be granted to publish the Urantia book 4.2. The war was barely over in 1945 when a new menace arose that postponed the dream of worldwide peace and spiritual regeneration. In January 1946, the Melchizedeks declared war on communism. They viewed communism as one of the greatest threats to the religion of Jesus and to the freedom of man in 2,000 years. The seraphic advocates of the past, angels of the church, angels of the churches, and of the future angels of progress, have been mandated to abandon their traditional perspectives, while they have been bidden to stand shoulder to shoulder in defense of the present. The Melchizedek's promise, the Master's teachings at Urantia will sometime prevail. The brotherhood of men will someday begin. Whether it requires a decade or a century, we will prevail against the forces of retrogression and enslavement. They expressed the hope they could prevent global war, but most of all, we crave to foster a spiritual awakening of your fellow mortals. 10:2. The course of communism was watched as the Melchizedeks worked behind the scenes. Finally, rather than delay until the downfall of that godless, oppressive system, the go-ahead was given in August of 1952 to publish the papers in 1955.
So that's why the Urantia book was not published till 1955. There was a real threat by communism, which is a godless regime. Okay, let me put it that way. Communism has not changed. If you listen to these woke people that tell you you can bring in socialism and communism, spit in their eye, because that is not true. It's false. It's an error. All right. It's so much important to the celestial beings of our planet that they stopped the publication of the Urantia book to keep it out of communistic hands. Who are we talking about?
So they didn't alter it.
Huh?
So they didn't alter it.
So they didn't alter it. That's right. So they didn't take the book, change it, bring in their socialistic and communistic ideas so that the world would follow them because of the power of the message of the book itself. Okay. So do you think communism is a threat today?
Yes.
Absolutely.
It still is, has been, always will be. Okay. So that's, you're wondering why they didn't publish it back in 1942 when they were ready. It's because of that. And what happened after 1942? In 1945, the end of World War II, right? So they started to feel a little more comfortable. And by 1945 or say, they gave him the go ahead to publish it in 1955, unless they notified them that it still should not be published. So when the Urantia book was published in 1955, the time clock had run out and none of the midwayers had contacted anybody at the foundation that they should not publish the book. So they did it by default because that's what they were told to do.
Are you aware that and I couldn't think of why the socialists would want to change this until I stopped to think. The book basically holds each and every individual responsible for his own advancement.
Right.
All right. Socialism, communism, I don't care if you want to dice the words up or what. I mean,
Right.
that's just semantics as far as I'm concerned, because it's all central power and it just evolves.
Right.
But okay, this don't get too detailed about it. The general term is basically socialism and communism are based on people wanting somebody else to do their responsibilities, to take on their responsibilities. The two concepts are opposites, so therefore they could not exist.
That's exactly right, Gary. That's exactly right. You know, the other thing too is when you think about it, people think that socialism is kind to everybody, takes in everybody. That's not what socialism is. It's not at all. Okay.
I'll give you a good current day example. New York City, one of the most socialist part of
the country,
United States right now.
Right next to California. Right.
Yeah. They have been inundated. You know, they're starting to get they're getting what they preached.
Yeah.
You know, with the illegal aliens coming in, with people shipped to states, shipping them into them because they say, hey, okay, now you know what they're doing now? They've got uncomfortable architecture. They put their park benches now are designed so you don't want to sit on them too long, and you definitely don't want to lay down and sleep on them. So all these here homeless people in New York City, okay, are being persecuted for being homeless. They're vents that come out and spew hot air out from the buildings. They're being redesigned so you can't sleep on them and stay warm.
Yeah.
You tell me that's humane?
So much for loving your brother, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't tell me this liberalism is humane.
Let me tell you something about the book too. It makes a statement, and we'll probably get to it today in a couple paragraphs here, but it makes a statement. The best government in the world is what?
Democracy.
The least government.
Oh. That's
so
right.
The less there is of government, the better it off. They're trying to fashion this after Havana, where there's very little government. So what does that mean? That means you were required as an individual to take responsibility for yourself.
Correct.
Okay. Not the government. Okay. That's very important. And I was telling my wife on the way to lunch today that, you know, really, when you think about it, the less government, the better. That's a concept of the Urantia book. But guess what else is that? That is their concept. And y'all won't like this, but it's the Republican Party. The Republican Party concept originally was we're better off with the least amount of government than more government.
Correct.
It's now the Libertarian Party.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's changed over time, but I just wanted to make that point that if you want a perfect government, you have a government that has the least amount of interference with human life. That's the best government, right?
Correct.
And read the government on a neighboring planet. It'll back that up. Okay. Let's see who read last.
I did.
I thought Gary just read.
Diane's. It's Diane.
Oh, it's
If Rodney
Diane's
read
turn?
last, it's Diane's turn.
Okay.
Can't remember.
Yeah. Assignments of responsibilities. The following instructions were read to the forum in November 1951. They were directed to the contact commissioners, the custodians of the Urantia revelation, from the personal region of the acting planetary prince of Urantia. I desire to inform you concerning certain decisions and rulings formulated by the planetary government which pertain to the affairs of the Urantia book and the ensuing Urantia Brotherhood. Today, I am calling into being a supreme planetary conclave to signalize my creation of the Supreme Court of Urantia. I have recently had a meeting with all persons and groups concerned with the Urantia revelation. As a result of this conference, I have made certain decisions and am handing down the following rulings.
I wanted to hold it there right there to explain something to y'all before he goes through these rulings. This group he's talking about, this is the angels of the churches, the angels of progress, the primary midwayers, the secondary midwayers, all those angelic beings involved in what's going on the planet. Okay. So when you think who's in charge of the Urantia book, it's the seraphim of progress. It's the seraphim of the churches. It's the seraphim assigned to them to take care of things. It's the primary midwayers and the secondary midwayers. So each one of these groups are in charge of making sure this revelation gets done. Okay. Okay.
1. For 500 years from February 11th, 1935, the overall welfare...
Hold on a second, just a dear. I want to say one other thing before I
Okay.
go on.
All right.
In 1952, we got a new governor general of the planet, if you want to call it a planetary prince, whatever. We got a new governor general in 1952, and that governor general will last for how long? 100 years. Okay, so we won't be due for another governor general of this planet till 2052. Okay, so the governor general that set this up and made these determinations is the ruling factor of the planet until 1952.
1. For 500 years from February 11th, 1935, the overall welfare and direction of the Urantia book is placed in the hands of the Seraphim of Progress. 2. The immediate fostering of the Urantia revelation from decade to decade, at least for the next 100 years, will be entrusted to the Seraphim of the churches. I have instructed this group to create a special commission to carry on this work. 3. The human aspect of the Urantia book will be placed in the hands of the trustees of the Urantia Foundation, subject to the adversary suggestions of veto powers of the Revelatory Commission of the United Midwayers of Urantia. 4. For the time being, mediation between the overall and superhuman supervision of this commission and the directly human functioning of the trustees of the Urantia Foundation shall be vested in the Midwayer Commission. the successor of the original Urantia Revelatory Commission. This commission shall continue to function as an advisor to both the seraphic overseers and the trustees of the Urantia Foundation, but their veto powers shall extend only to the decisions and acts of the human trustees. 5. In the absence of midway intervention after February 11, 1954, the trustees of the Urantia Foundation shall proceed in accordance with their own judgment. 10-4.
Okay, so
You're muted, Roger. 10-4, good buddy.
okay, thanks. February 11th, 1954 was the cutoff date. If they did not hear from the commission, the midwayers before then, they had permission to prepare and publish the book in January of 1955. Okay. So that's when the book was published, because they had not heard from them since then. Make sense? You see how understanding all this makes all the stuff come into view? Kind of makes it more understandable.
Yeah, it does.
Okay, and we're getting this from 3 different views. If you think about it, actually 4 different views, because this is Carolyn Kendall's view, Larry Mullen's view, Meredith Sprunger's view, and then the historians for the Urantia stuff. Okay. This continues on. Let me see if I can read this. I don't know if I can read this big enough or not. Let me put this on full.
I can do it if you need me to.
Can
Or-
you?
yeah.
You can read it too, Rodney. I think you're up next. I actually I was up next, but Rodney, if you could take this, and then the next one's small like this too, Gary, let me know if you can see it when it comes up. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, this communication represents my ruling up to this date respecting your forum, the 70, the Urantia book, the Urantia Foundation, and the proposed Urantia Brotherhood. Excuse me. 1. Your forum shall continue under the supervision of the Contact Commission as directed until June 24th, 1933. 2. The Urantia Brotherhood. The plan of organization, constitution, it exists on this date, is hereby provisionally approved for the inauguration of the Brotherhood. The plan provides for its own subsequent amendation.
Hang on, hold on just a second there, Rodney. To understand this, we have to understand that the foundation was the 6th of the Contact Commission. Okay, that was who the foundation was. Okay,
Time.
they proposed that they start a brotherhood, Urantia Brotherhood, which would consist of a social group of people, which included the Forum and the 70 eventually. The social group would be one of intercommunication of all those involved in bringing the revelation out, and they're studying the papers and all this other stuff. So the brotherhood was supposed to be a social group, okay, where the foundation was the controlling factor of the copyright and publishing the book. Okay, that's all they were supposed to do. Okay, the reason I'm bringing this out is this. There were multiple changes over 50 years of different organizations, people trying to control the organizations. There was 3 different people that wanted to come in and take over. 2 of those kept saying they were getting messages at, they said they were psychics and they were supposed to take over the group, and this sort of thing. So these kind of people show up in anything spiritual. So this was part of the channeling debacle that happened years ago. Okay. So one guy said that he had a psychic kept telling him that he was going to be the head of the Urantia Brotherhood, and that he needed to do this and that and the other, and he would become famous and rich from it and all this other stuff. And then there was another guy, Vern Grimsley, in the Family of God, who basically got these messages that World War III was coming. So he took all his people he could from the group and went to California, and they hid in a bunker waiting for World War III to start, and it never did. Okay. So you get these nutcases in every organization that starts.
Of course.
So if you understand this and you hear these rumors from different people about this and that and the other, it always brings me back to one thing, and that is stay the course. Stay your original course, because you're being guarded by angels of progress, angels of the churches, the primary and secondary midwives. They're guiding us to bring the book out so that it doesn't get devastated by all these other people that want to make money, take over, and that sort of thing. If you let those influences into your organization, you're in trouble, right? That's what they're talking about here. Okay, go on, Rodney.
Okay. 3, the starting of the brotherhood. The launching of the brotherhood shall be left to the decisions of the trustees of the Urantia Foundation.
The 6, right? The 6 Contact Commission. That's what that is. The trustees of the Urantia Foundation. Okay, go ahead, Rodney.
Okay. They shall act personally, unofficially, and no record of such action shall appear in the transactions of the Urantia Foundation. They shall assume all and full responsibility for the organization and inauguration of the Urantia Brotherhood. Number 4, the Urantia Book. By mandate of the Supreme Court of Urantia, the full custody of the Urantia Book has been placed in my hands. I now make the following rulings. I and I alone will direct the time of the publication of the Urantia Book. B, if I do not provide such instructions on or before January the 1st, 1955, then the trustees of the Urantia Foundation should proceed with plans for publication in accordance with their own judgment.
And that's what they did on January 1st, 1955, right? It was published.
Okay.
Right.
C, I approve of your plan to publish the index of the Urantia Book in a separate volume. 5, the 70. This is a project which will terminate with the launching of the Brotherhood. I will continue the present supervision. If for any reason the supervision should be terminated, I direct the trustees of the Urantia Foundation, acting officially, to appoint a new leader to act pending the inauguration of the Urantia Brotherhood. Quote, I share in your aspirations, concur in your longings, minister to your shortcomings, and wholeheartedly bless your undertakings.
Okay, so let's look at the sequence of events here. Because February, they heard nothing, right? Nothing from anybody. So the book, they went into preparations to go ahead and publish the book, okay? But they had to wait to January 1st, 1955 to actually start to publish the book, because that was the cutoff date, right? So all of that year, 1954, which is the year I was born, they were preparing for the publication. You follow me? So that's the sequence of events. It's nice to know what actually happened.
Yeah, it is. This one's smaller yet.
Yeah, I know. I tried to get a lot into this little. Can you read that, Gary?
I think so. It's going to be a challenge. I got it though.
Okay.
I think. Okay. All right. You ready?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to come closer too because I can't read it either.
Mm.
Okay.
Okay.
The timing of the Urantia book. In April 1955,
How's that?
William S. Sandler Jr. prepared a paper.
Hang on, Gary.
Yes.
I can put mine up to super level. Can you read that, dear?
Yeah.
Diane can read it, and she can read half of it, and I'll read the other half, and then we'll come back to
Okay.
you. Okay.
That
Because I don't
works
want
for
you
me.
straining your, huh?
That works for me. I'm easy.
Okay.
The timing of the Urantia book. In April 1955, William S. Sadler Jr. prepared a paper, Timing of the Urantia book, for the files of the Executive Committee, drawn from certain wise comments and advices. It was known that these wise sayings were originally written communications addressed to the contact commissioners. We had heard them read in 1951 in their original form. Bill had adapted the language for public consumption, and he also read this paper to the forum. We regard the Urantia book as a feature of the progressive evolution of human society. It is not germane to the spectacular to the spectacular episodes of epical revelation. Even though it may apparently be turned to appear in the wake of one such revolution in human society, the book belongs to error immediately to follow the conclusion of the present ideological struggle. Yes. Okay. That will be the day when men will be willing to seek truth and righteousness. When the chaos of the present confusion has passed, it will be more readily possible to formulate the cosmos of a new and improved era of human relationships. And it is for this better order of affairs on earth that the book has been made ready. Okay.
Okay. Why is this so important up to this point? What they're telling us is there were. Oh, you're still on.
Oh, I'm sorry. I am.
What they're telling us here is this, that the book is really prepared for the age after what? Communism. You see that?
The chaos.
The chaos of communism. And they felt that that age was closely coming after the end of World War II. They never dreamed that it would crop up again in Russia and in China and in
North Korea.
all these other places. So what does that tell us? That means that the Urantia book in reality is really for the age after us even, doesn't it? Okay. Because it'll take that long to put a snuff on communism, and it may take 200 years. We don't know, right? We really know. That's the bad news. Okay, so let's go on. The good news is we got to publish it, didn't we? Okay, so we as individuals have benefited from this.
Certainly have.
You know, but the publication of the book has not been postponed to that possibly somewhat remote date. That's what I'm talking about. You see what I'm talking about here, where I put that in? An early publication of the book has been provided so that it may be in hand for the training of leaders and teachers. Leaders and teachers. Leaders and teachers. Okay. Its presence is also required to engage the attention of persons of means who may thus be led to provide funds for translations into other languages. You who dedicate your lives to the service of this book and the Brotherhood can little realize the import of your doings. You will doubtless live and die without fully realizing that you are participating in the birth of a new age of religion on this world. The future is not open to your mortal comprehension. but you will do well to diligently study the order, plan, and methods of progression as they were enacted in the earth life of Michael when the Word was made flesh. You are becoming actors in an ensuing episode when the Word is made book. Did y'all catch that?
Yeah.
So what are they saying here? He's a religious man. He's Christian, and he's saying the Urantia book is the Word of God or Word of Michael put into a book. You catch that? So if you want to start calling something the Word of God, maybe we should rethink this, right?
Yeah.
All right. So the Word made flesh. You're becoming actors in the ensuing episode when the Word is made book. Great is the difference in these dispensations of religion, but many are the lessons which can be learned from a study of the former age. You must again study the times of Jesus on earth. You must carefully take note of how the kingdom of heaven was inaugurated in the world. Did it evolve slowly and unfold naturally, or did it come with sudden show of force and with spectacular exhibition of power? Was it evolutionary or revolutionary? You must learn to possess your souls in patience. You are in association with a revelation of truth, which is part of the natural evolution of religion on this world. Over rapid growth would be suicidal. The book is being given to those who are ready for it long before the day of its worldwide mission. Thousands of study groups must be brought into existence, and the book must be translated into many tongues. Thus, the book be in readiness with the battle for man's liberty is finally won, and the world is once more made safe for the religion of Jesus and the freedom of mankind. Right? Freedom of religion, freedom of self, freedom from overbearing government. Right? Okay.
So that tells us why it's taken so long to evolve.
That's right. Let's go back to this one. I bet it takes us back to the beginning. It did. Y'all give me a second. Let me find my paragraph again. I think we're still way up here. Yep. I'm sorry, y'all. I had to make this really big so I could read it. So nope, I had read that one. Hang on, y'all. Stay with me. Give me a second.
I'm not going anywhere.
All right. Little bitty paragraphs. It's hard to tell where you are. There we go. That's where we go. Okay, let's see. Gary, I think this one's yours.
I've already read it. I'm done. Oh,
Well, share it with us. Tell us everything you read.
oh. I could do that almost, but I'll read it anyway.
Okay.
Okay. The unencumbered Urantia book, the revelators were concerned that the book might become a means for the personal aggrandizement of the human associated with it. The main reason for not revealing the identity of the contact personality is that the celestial revelators do not want any human being, any human name, ever to be associated with the Urantia book. They want this revelation to stand on its own declaration and teachings. They are determined that future generations shall have the book wholly free from all mortal connections. They do not want a St. Peter, St. Paul, Luther, Calvin, or Wesley. The book does not even bear the imprint of the printer who brought the book into being. Parentheses 1.1. They do not want anyone to make either a name or money for himself off the Urantia book.
Y'all don't,
Parentheses.
y'all don't have to read those. Those are all references at the bottom of this document where they got it from. Okay. So basically the contact commission or the contact personalities that revealed this book did not want any human being associated with this book. And that's why there's no information about the contact personality that they used to reveal this book. So when someone asks you who wrote the book, the best answer is celestial authorities, if you think about it, right? Because they are the ones that authorized this book. All right. Now this is sort of an unusual paragraph here because there were so many things going on during this period of time when Carolyn Kendall wrote this, some of which was some of the attacks on the book, the foundation, and other things. So what she's doing here is she's saying, this is what we know. This is the facts at hand. Okay. So I think I'll read this one myself before we go on. All right. It is a fallacy to believe that whoever controls the book controls the movement. That's wrong. Rather, when believers exhibit more enthusiasm for scholarship and more aggressive personal dissemination of the book and its teachings, there will follow an upsurge in sales of books. When more teachers and leaders are trained or train themselves, study groups will improve. And there are better study groups that will attract and hold more students. The more students will buy the books. It worked in the old days. This is review clear and incontrovertible facts coming up. Okay. So as there's more study groups that evolve over time and more teachers, the more you teach, the better you get at it. I can tell you that the first time I went through the book, I was fumbling through, doing the best I could. The second time I went through the book, I did better. It's the same way with doing the forward. The first time I went through the forward, I was going, I'm not sure if this is exactly correct. But the second time I went through the forward, 3 or 4 years ago, I felt pretty confident in what I was teaching, and that's just experience, right, over time. Okay. Review clear and incontrovertible facts. 1, the angels of the churches, the angels of progress, the Midwayer Commission, and the planetary prince have the ultimate authority for the welfare of the Urantia book. Y'all catch that? Yeah, it is. That's who's in charge, not us. The chain of authority for management of the Urantia book was first placed into the hands of the human contact commissioners by the Revelatory Commission and then delegated to the trustees of the Urantia Foundation, that's those that came after them, by the invisible planetary prince. According to their declaration of trust, the trustees assume exclusive responsibility for maintaining the integrity of the text and the publication of all editions, including translations. 3, there was supposed to be a copyright in the Urantia book, and originally there was, okay? The revelators directed the contact commissioners to protect the name Urantia. The contact commissioner passed on this responsibility to the foundation. The revelators advised that there should be only one official Urantia social outreach organization, democratic but minimally organized, to occupy the field. Did y'all catch that? So that would be the Brotherhood. Okay, it was supposed to be very open. And that's what was supposed to occupy the field for all contact outside the foundation. Although the trustees planned and launched the Brotherhood, the revelators advised that the two organizations, the publishing and the social, be organized disconnected from each other. Organically dissociated, right? Under this plan, they would carry out its mission without interference from or accounting to the other. In other words, the foundation did not answer to the Brotherhood. The Brotherhood would not answer to the foundation. There's no authority. Okay. That's what comes into existence when you get something like this. And the rest of this is continuing on with the timeline of Larry Mullen's book. Okay. Let me take a quick look at something, y'all. We're running out of time here. We're down to 3:51. Let me go through this timeline slot, and the next time we're going to go through some history of William Sadler. And the reason I divided this up this way, I want y'all to understand this, is at the beginning of this presentation, I went through a lot of this information. Okay, so that someone that just watches the first part of this would get an overview of what we're going to talk about, the whole thing, right? So then later on in the presentation, I'm coming back to the specifics of what Larry Mullen's book says, so that we have a full background of the history of the book. So when someone starts to read the book or they start to understand the book, they know where it came from, why it came from, the whole 9 yards, right? And that's what we've tried to present. So I'm going to read through this timeline chart and then wait for the next slide on Dr. Sadler. We'll wait till the next meeting. Okay, sound good?
Okay.
All right. Timeline as close as possible from Larry Mullen's book. We'll get 3 more in the next minute. 1906 to 1908, the first contact with the sleeping subject. We cannot be sure. Now, I want to bring this information out because we got all 3 different sources. According to Dr. Sadler himself, from The Mind at Mischief. Remember when I read that document, The Mind of Mischief, from Mind at Mischief? Dr. Sadler himself said it was 1911. Okay, so you can see the difference in these timeline things. Okay, 1906 and 1955, non-material beings of superhuman intelligence and maturity interface with a group of eventually 6 mortals for the purpose of providing a religious revelation of epical significance. 1924, December 1924, the Sadlers prepared a formidable number of questions in response to the professed celestial challenge. Notice the time difference. If you take 1911 to 1924, it's 18 years. So what does that tell us? That tells us the midwayers prepared this group for 18 years before they actually started revealing the book. Okay.
Well, 13. But
13
close.
years. Yeah. Close enough. Yeah. They stated as 18 years. The reason we use 18 years because we're not sure about the 1911, if it's 1911 or 1908, right?
Right.
So, right, that's where the extra years come in. Okay. 1924, December 1924, the Sadlers prepared a formidable number of questions in response to the professed celestial challenges. And they responded with this, y'all. If you only knew what you are in contact with, you would not ask such trivial questions. You would rather ask questions which might elicit answers of supreme value to the human race. Okay, so don't ask them stupid questions. In other words,
Let's get
1920. Yeah. 1925, 30 individuals agreed to sign a pledge and officially became a group. We acknowledge our pledge of secrecy, renewing our pledge not to discuss the Urantia revelations or their subject matter with anyone save active forum members, and to take no notes of such as is read or discussed at the public sessions, or make any copies of notes that we have personally read. So they weren't to take anything with them when they left every day. 1925, January 18th, the forum read the first paper. Dr. William and Lena Sadler brought the huge type manuscript to the meeting, January 18th, 1925. This is when the first exposure to what would become the Urantia book began. So it really started in 1925. Okay. 1935, the receipt of part 4, restatement of the life and teachings of Jesus by commission of Urantia Midwayers, the Urantia book part 4. 1935, this is just an interesting fact that he stuck in there. The sun is functioning through the period of its greatest economy. This is out of the book. It will shine at present efficiency for more than 25 billion years. So the sun's going to keep going on a long time. That means the planet will. All right. 1942, May 31st, 1942, the final meeting of the forum took place. The turnover of the forum members was great, and during its period of existence, a total of 486 members had come and gone. So 486 people came into the forum, come and gone. Okay. And then in 1950, it's documented that the Urantia Foundation was established in 1950. Well, that's a Wikipedia article. Okay. So that's where we're going to stop for tonight. We almost made it the whole 2 hours, didn't we? I hope y'all enjoyed some of this, because it's a lot of information to get up. Yeah, Gary.
You know, just from this slide here, the force behind this book is unstoppable.
It is. It is.
It's just, it's basically get out of the road, world, here we come.
Yeah. If you
And
don't want to
it's,
jump on, the bandwagon, step aside. Right?
Well, the unique part about it, if you don't jump in the bandwagon, when you die, you'll be put on the bandwagon.
That's exactly right. What's that movie where it says, "You will comply"? Right?
I
What
mean,
was
you
that,
know,
Star Trek or
it's the
something?
way it is.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Let's have a little prayer and we will quit for tonight. And let me ask y'all, stick us out there. There's only us here. Do y'all want to try to continue this next week? You know, it's Thanksgiving weekend coming up. Do y'all want to try to do 2 and 4 next Sunday, or you know, wait till the week after that?
I'm good myself, but
Huh?
I'm good myself.
Gary, have you got big plans next weekend?
I'm trying to do that, give you an answer right now. Unfortunately, Apple updated my phone and I'm trying to look at my calendar.
Okay, why don't y'all just send me an
Give
email?
me just a second. I've mastered Apple. I think I'm good, but what about the other people?
Well,
What
that's
I'm
what I'm
thinking
thinking.
about is,
I'm thinking
thanks.
maybe we should do it the weekend after that.
Yeah, because
The
you know,
5th,
it's
I
just
think
me
it
and
is.
Rodney, and
Yeah.
you know, you know,
I have a few more people.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll plan on 2 weeks from now then, probably. Okay. I hate to do it on a holiday because I don't want to keep people
I
from coming.
understand.
Yeah. Okay. So let's say a little prayer and we will quit for tonight. Let me just say a short prayer and I'll shut it down. Father, thank you for bringing us together tonight. Thank you for this wonderful revelation. Thank you for allowing us to share it with others. We pray that people will get a benefit from this. We pray that they will understand it and they will understand the importance of this book to their lives and how it will change their lives forever. We thank you. We give you the praise in your son, Michael, Jesus of Nazareth. Amen.
And Father, we're thankful that the Word was made book.
That's right. That's right. Let me stop Facebook. Stop the recording here. I hope this came through on this one, dear, because it went off once. Stop recording.